Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us today. We will obviously be doing a webinar with Sarah Edmondson and myself, Phil Prince. I think what we're going to do is just give people another minute or so to join us in case there's a few late joiners. We can see the numbers going up now. But genuinely really appreciate people taking the time out of their diaries today on a Thursday, as we know how busy everybody is at the moment. So thank you very much, and hopefully you get some great takeaways from today. Yeah, absolutely. So I think before we get stuck into things, I'll just introduce myself and just say, if people do have any questions throughout, please do type into the box. We will get to the questions, if not immediately, very quickly afterwards. So don't feel like you have to wait to the end. But yeah, my name is Phil Prince. I am the head of corporate clients here at Street Group, which covers Street and Spectre. And I am joined today, I'm delighted to say, by industry legend Sarah Edmondson. So Sarah, yeah, do you want to do a full introduction to yourself and about your journey in the industry?
Well, I don't want to lose any of these people, Phil, that have just joined by doing a full introduction. You've seen my long bio. I think I sent it to you. Everyone would be asleep in the next 5 minutes. No, thank you so much for having me, and I'm delighted to join you. And I'm also, I feel a great sense of responsibility. We've got lots and lots of people on here who hopefully I'm going to be able to give some both high level thought to, but also some practical tips. And if we can give that to people by the end of today, then that will have been hopefully a worthwhile 30, 45 minutes. Those who know me know that I can't stop talking, so might be more like 45. We'll see how we get on. But yeah, hopefully there's going to be lots of practical things we can talk about. And for those who don't know me, very, very briefly, I wear a lot of hats. A lot. I can't help myself. I need to learn to say no. I'm working on it. But I love all of the hats that I wear. I used to be an estate agent, and I still consider myself primarily to be an estate agent, and I wish often that I am. I often try and meddle where I'm not wanted in estate agency, but fundamentally my life has changed since I was an estate agent. I worked for some time at the Guild and Fine and Country, out of the head office at Mayfair, covering the whole of North of England, North Wales, North Midlands. And then after a short time there, I decided that actually I wanted to go and help estate agents in their businesses in the way that I thought I best could. And that was with the training and consultancy business that I set up with Brian Mansell called All Stars. And that was just, to be honest with you, it was just the most wonderful part of my career. Spent lots and lots of time traveling the length and breadth of the country, talking to estate agents, working with them, finding out about their challenges and helping them overcome them. Obviously, everything changed in the pandemic. Life changed. 5 days away from home became 7 days at home. Very different. But we adapted to some degree. But now I also run Agents Together, which many of you will know about. I think we're going to talk about today, Phil, which has been one of the most rewarding things that I've ever been a part of. And I chair the strategic board at Boomin, and I spend lots and lots of time working with you good people at Street. And yeah, so and lots of other stuff as well. So yeah, never a dull day.
Never a dull day when you wear so many hats. So
I'm also going to be a property developer as well, but I'm not very good at that.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. So yeah, and I think you say something really important there, that you were an estate agent, but you still see yourself as an estate agent. Yeah. I myself was an estate agent for 15 years up here in the Northwest, and I think once you've been an estate agent, you always consider yourself to be an estate agent, and it's one of the key things that it's such an important but such an interesting industry that it's really, really hard to leave. Even if you do stop being an estate agent officially, I don't think it ever leaves you, which really obviously that weight carries through all of the other roles that you've done as well. Now, you've worked through tough markets, you've worked through recessions, you've worked through healthy markets as well, and really strong markets. And I think, as you've said, when the metaphorical whistle blew 2 years ago and we all got sent home, everything changed. And this was one of the industries that was allowed to carry on more than others. But how did you personally adapt, and how have you worked with agents and helped them adapt through these tough times?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago for people who are in property, I think, that we had that sort of March 2020 moment where we all, I was frightened, absolutely terrified. I think we all were, if we're really honest. And you're right, within a matter of months, the property industry seemed to pick back up, and demand went through the roof. And it seems crazy to think that we were so terrified, because actually we have out of all the industries fared, let's be honest, quite well if we look at it in business terms. Now, there have been some issues around everything from staffing to actually stress and burnout and overworking in a lot of cases. And again, that's where Agents Together comes in. Me personally, I mean, I've been really, really open and honest with anybody who'll listen. Basically, we went from, having a very, very successful training business to 10% turnover overnight. And that was very, very frightening. But we felt very fortunate that we had been able to do some online stuff, and we're able to adapt very quickly to delivering online training and working with our agency clients. But we also did a lot for free during that time. So we did, I don't know if you ever came on them, Phil, but we did the Great Big Morning Meeting, where we just invited all estate agents to join us in the Great Big Morning Meeting. And we did we were trying to keep it positive every morning.
The Joe Wicks of estate agency.
That's what we thought we were. I mean, I had, I was like, watch out, Kirsty Allsop, I was coming for her at one point. That didn't transpire, of course. But on a serious note, we just wanted to give back at that point. The industry had been very, very good to us over the years. And I really felt a sense of just wanting to make sure that if we could support people with some tips and ideas at that point, then we would definitely do so. But then shortly after that as well, we started Agents Together, because my biggest fear at that point, I don't know if any of the people watching today are into this sort of personality profiling, but I'm a yellow through and through. So I just want to love everybody, help people. That's my, natural state. And when Michael Bruce contacted me and said, I can't sit back and having, made a good living out of the industry and just not help when at the time of need. So when he approached me and he said, do you want to get involved? I thought, yeah, actually I do. I'd like to do that too. And for me, the driver behind it was estate agents. We are social creatures. Most of us, we're out and about. Most people love estate agency because no 2 days are the same. It's different. It's interesting. We love, dealing with different people's emotions most of the time. And we love helping people. And all of a sudden, all of those people were sat in their bedrooms or at their kitchen tables. And we thought, this is not a natural state for an estate agent. So we need to make sure that everybody has got somebody to talk to. And that is kind of what runs through the beating heart of Agents Together and what started the mentorship initiative ultimately.
Yeah, it's really, really tough time for people. Like you say, social creatures, people that in the main, in the estate agency, they're driven to help people. They want to help people sell properties. They want to help people buy properties and let, etc. And I think that's lost on the public a lot of the time, obviously, which is criminal, really. And I think a big education piece needs to be done with the public. But when you then have that taken away from you and everything's sort of virtual, online, maybe one day in the office, split teams, etc., it was a really, really difficult time. And you did a lot of work with us over that time as well. We like you, we made some major changes in terms of trying to work with agents and cost. People weren't necessarily prospecting as much, and there were some big changes that had to happen here. And it was a very, very scary time, as you've said. And you did a lot of work with the street group at the time. Do you want to expand a little bit on how you worked with us and helped us?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say the reason why let me rephrase that. The positive to come out of the pandemic, if there are some, and I think there are some, there's obviously a lot of negatives and a lot of tragedy that we've heard about. But the positive, I think, was that we have potentially expedited the adoption of technology into our businesses. I mean, everyone's grandmas were using Zoom, right?
Yeah.
So
Badly at times, but yeah, they were losing it.
So in a nutshell, actually, what we have done is we have the reason I worked with Street was to make sure that that could happen quickly throughout the industry. So could we adopt technology that better served the customer? Because that's what this has got to be all about. And I've just seen Jared say, is this meant to be about how to position your agency? Jared, you are absolutely right. And we're getting to it, but you might have heard that I do quite like to have a little chit chat along the way. But this is exactly the point. We were kind of forced to adopt more technology. And the work I did with Street was all around the product and building out the CRM to make it look, it ultimately and feel like the right thing for the consumer, but also help estate agents in saving time, saving money, automating, and ultimately streamlining those processes. So yeah, I did work in the product team, and I also did lots of training for your wonderful customer success team to help them understand estate agents, the landscape, the market, and that sort of thing. And it was brilliant. I love the culture you have at Street. It's very, very exciting. So yeah, it was great to be a part of for that period of time.
Yeah, do you know what? That's something that we're really lucky that we've managed to maintain as we've grown so rapidly is the culture. And I know it's been a while since you did the work here, but people still watch and rewatch the training videos. People still talk about you, and you know that you are loved here. But so we'll just open up on that. You talked about technology and innovation within the industry. In terms of estate agents and how they can help themselves for the remainder of 2022 and going forward, why do you think the innovation that's happened in the past few years is so important, and what things would you recommend people adopt to help themselves grow?
So the point, and this is, now we're getting to the meaty bit. Hopefully that'll keep Jared and Mark happy and others. Innovation is an overutilized word, in my opinion. Okay. Yet it is also the principles behind it absolutely necessary. I think really what we'll talk about more, and what's more important to talk about is actually embracing change. Something that perhaps historically we haven't, if we're really honest with ourselves as an industry, been brilliant at. No. Things, if it ain't broke, why fix it, is sometimes the attitude. And I totally get that. But the point is, one of the things that I've learned over the work that I've done is that there's two reasons why we absolutely have to embrace change, which / innovation. And that is from the consumer's perspective. The consumer now is expecting something different from all industries. It's not just our industry. So, obviously we all have an iPhone or other smartphone, surgically attached to our hand most of the time. Everything that we do in our life, whether it be paying our electricity bill, controlling our heating, doing our banking, everything in between is done via a tiny little thing that we hold in our hand. And for that reason, I must say, I'm a huge advocate of, you will never take the people out of a state agency, ever. I don't for 1 minute think that will ever happen. It's the most vital part of a state agency. But being supported by top tech is where the future is, because that's what we've come to expect in all other industries. Who would have thought that we could literally sit, not here because I live in the Lake District, but you could literally sit in your house and have any kind of meal you wanted delivered to your front door within the space of about half an hour. We never would have expected that. Nobody needed it, but guess what? It came, and now we use it, and it has been one of the fastest growing industries, and certainly the pandemic accelerated that as well.
And so people would be devastated now if it was taken away. Right.
So the point I'm trying to make is that estate agency, and I've been training and consulting for 6 years, and this single message hasn't changed. Automate and provide innovation and tech on the stuff that you can, and keep your people on the people. Yeah, you've still got to have conversations. I hear a lot about resistance to change and resistance to innovation and adopting innovation and new tech, because people in the offices are understandably quite nervous about, oh, I'm going to lose my job, or that will replace me. But actually, it's quite the opposite. It's freeing up the time to spend more time building relationships. And I think that's what as leaders, hopefully there's lots of leaders on here, can actually really think about embracing that as a concept, which is innovation is vitally important. We've got to do it or we'll get left behind. The consumer is ultimately demanding it. It can make our lives easier as agents. So how am I going to embrace that change and embed it in my business? And it's by explaining and understanding that I'm not taking anybody's job away. I'm making their life easier so they can do something else that is based on people. That's the key message for me here for anybody who's watching this.
Yeah, absolutely. This will always be a people business. And I see and still speak to so many agents now where people on the front desk, the valuers, the managers, senior managers, area managers, they spend so much time doing non-estate agency work, what I would consider to be non-estate agency work. They're not on the phone to people. They're not building the relationships, as you say, because they're bogged down in too many other things that potentially could be automated. Because everything from the marketing, from the prospecting, it all needs taking care of, and it all takes time, and there's only so many hours in a day, and we don't necessarily need people to be working from 8 till 8 at night because it's not healthy for them, certainly not to do it every single day. So yeah, adaptation of I think Peter Knight's been speaking about for a good couple of years of automate what you can automate and let the people do the people work. Yeah,
absolutely right. We're all hopefully, if we're at the top of our game, banging the same drum, right? You know, I'm glad to hear that these people are saying that. And someone, I can't remember who it was actually, a few years ago introduced me to the concept of a £10 task. I don't think it's £10 anymore because I think that's slightly less than minimum wage. But the thinking behind that is, you know, we sometimes don't value ourselves enough and what we can do, and so therefore we spend an inordinate amount of time doing the £10 task, administrative duties. Not that they're not valuable, but you can pay somebody to do that less than what you can create in that same hour. And this is the change in thinking for me, is that as a leader or a manager in a business, or anybody frankly, is if that can be delegated to either a person or a piece of technology, in which case it'd be even less than a £10 task, right?
Yeah.
Then it should be, because then you can focus on value creation, and that's the mindset change that is important, I think, for really moving agency into the next stage as the years pass by.
Yeah, absolutely. And as things, and we know we're working in an insane market at the moment where buyers and tenants are piling out of the doors, and unfortunately right at this moment in time instructions aren't piling in at the same rate. How would you, and things are due to change, hopefully not too much, but what would you say people need to start reviewing and preparing for the future and any change?
So isn't this a fantastically strange conundrum? So we have got buyers coming out of our ears. Yeah, I think we'll all agree on that. We know, we've all seen the stats and the data, yet we're scrapping around for stock. Now, not all of those buyers have got a house to sell, but a lot of them have. So somewhere, something isn't quite adding up. And I'm just going to put my cards on the table here, and it might upset a few people, but perhaps we're not doing enough with those buyers. Yep. To really work them through and get them to come to the market, and therefore ultimately creating a market. We have a responsibility to do that if we don't want to be at the mercy of the market. That's, again, my opinion. So the message in this, for anybody watching, and we promise there'll be some practical tips, you've got to get after these buyers. You know, they're not just because they're 10 a penny, just because they're flying at us and, oh, another lead, and I'm buried under leads. Actually, we've got to start looking after these. We've got to nurture them. We have got to develop relationships with these buyers, because these are the people that are going to come to the market, and we can create our own markets. So yeah, we've got to really, to your point, sorry, I didn't answer your question there, Phil, at all. I got carried away with thinking about buyer management. But we've got to start really as businesses, and I know we're not good at it on the whole. Some people are very good at it, because I've worked with thousands of agents, and I know sometimes it's kind of the last thing to happen. So we really get stuck into these buyers and start encouraging them to the market, start matching people up. You know, think of yourself as a sort of matchmaking service is the way that I always say, and use your technology to obviously do that. When it comes to reviewing things, I think, you know, if I'd probably swap my hat out and put my consultancy hat on for a bit here, I think that you should be obviously you review your P&L and various your ROIs on a weekly, sometimes a monthly basis, and annually, of course. But I think there's a bit of a bigger picture than that, which I encourage people to do annually. And I would suggest, as the market is potentially shifting now, I don't know whether we've had an interest rate rise, but I think we're about to have an interest rate rise today, if you're watching live. The cost of living crisis that's coming down the line, let's be honest, it is coming. I don't mean to sound like a doom monger, but it is going to put some headwind on what we're doing. Also, you know, other micro and macro issues, war, unfortunately, all of that is it's all muddy in the water, isn't it? So now there's never been a better time to have this sort of review that you're talking about, Phil. And for me, where I would start with that is, for me, it's always the vision. I start really high at the top. What is the vision of my business? The mission? Where am I going? Where are we going with this? But crucially, do all my staff understand that? All my team understand? Oh, Phil, you dropped. I've lost Phil, everybody, so I don't know where he's gone. Oh, he's back.
I'm back.
Do my people understand that vision? That's the big one for me. So I do a lot of leadership training, and when I'm working with the managers, and I'll say, so what's your vision for this branch or this business for the next 12 months, 24 months, 5 years? And they go, oh yeah, it's X. Right. So if I go and ask all your people now, are they going to tell me the same thing? Largely the answer is no. So start with reviewing your vision. It's 5 things here, so I'll try and speed through them. The next thing is your people's strategy, not just your people, but your people's strategy. Are you managing performance properly? Are you doing reviews and one-to-ones? Are you hiring properly? Should you be recruiting? Someone once told me you should always be recruiting. So actually, what are you doing there in terms of your people strategy and your culture? Review that. I think also to review the data that you are producing, the data that you use to measure, but also what data might support you in your business to help you ultimately achieve what you want to achieve. So data is a huge part. One of the things that I see a lot of in agency is, you know, agents have got some really valuable home mover data. I mean, that stuff is gold, but underutilized sometimes. One email a week is probably not going to be enough to really use it. So really thinking about the data and what you can do with it, segmenting it and communicating with them on different levels.
I think, sorry to jump in there on point 3, I think one of the most valuable pieces of data that people are sat on, and we just don't use in British estate agency, is your past purchases. The mind boggles. Now, I understand we're not in America and Australia where we're charging 5%, so you're not dropping hampers on people's doorsteps on the birthdays and the kids' birthdays and bottles of wine and stuff. But it amazes me how many agents do nothing. You hand somebody a set of keys, you say goodbye, and you never speak to them again. And then you get, let's say, annoyed in 6 years' time when that property goes on the market with the agent across the road. You've no right to be annoyed. You didn't build a relationship. You didn't keep in touch. You were too busy chasing the people to drag them in the doors while you're watching people fly out of the window. And I don't know. Sorry, Keith, it's just you that can't hear me. Hopefully, if somebody else,
I can hear you, Phil. Sorry, Keith.
But it's the most underutilized piece of data for me, and it really should be supported. I mean, there's various different pieces of tech. We obviously, I mean, this is not a massive sales job, but we have pieces of anniversaries and specs. But do something with it. Keep in touch with people, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, whether it's a property report on the anniversary of them buying the property. these people are coming back to the market, and they'll be coming back to the market soon. If you've been open for more than a couple of years now, people will be drip feeding back into the market, and they're easy instructions, aren't
Quite
they?
right. And we have also experienced what could be classed as an extraordinary market in recent times. And as such, you know, you can't really always predict when somebody's going to come back to the market, as much as we would love to have our crystal ball. So as a result of that, communication is key. We all know that me particularly, if I go off and look at a pair of shoes on a nice fancy website, and then I'm followed around the internet by this fancy pair of shoes until ultimately I buy them, right? Which is very annoying for my bank balance, but it is the fact of life. Now, ridiculous analogy, but ultimately makes complete sense in what you're talking about, Phil, in that, you know, we've actually got these people. We've had a relationship with them, hopefully a fairly positive one, because ultimately they won a property, and then we just sort of wave off and off they go into the sunset. You're absolutely right. Like, so ultimately we have a responsibility now to keep in touch with them in a way that they want. And yes, of course, we know that you have a piece of technology that supports that, and it's fantastic, and I think it's superb. But, you know, to everybody else on here, I'm not here to do a sales pitch. So I tell you, it's in your databases. So, you know, this is basic stuff at best, but commitment and consistency to actually contacting those people on a regular basis, putting a process in place that ensures that they don't get missed, that can change everything for you. It's a longer term strategy, so it's not going to solve an immediate stock issue now, but it is going to safeguard your business for the future. I can't hear you now, Phil. I can't hear you now. Sorry, everybody. I'm very sorry, everybody. Do stick with us. He does look the part in that headset, doesn't he? I mean, to be honest. Carry on with point 4. Okay. Thanks, Phil. He's telling me what to do in the chat whilst he works it out. So I will continue to talk to you wonderful people that have joined us today. So I talked about vision, I talked about people, talked about data, processes. I mean, process has kind of gone a little bit out of the window in a lot of businesses lately, because we've just been so busy, and we have been fighting a lot of fires and trying to just do the job as best we can with the highest service levels that we can. And but if you ever find yourself in a bit of a lull, it's a great time to review those processes and what is actually working for you, what's not working for you, and how might you improve it, and how might you adopt certain technologies that can help you to improve those processes. And it's a great job for up and coming leaders and managers to do. It doesn't necessarily all have to fall at your door. If you are the principal within the business, you know, you get your people to do it. It's a great task for somebody to do if they are coming through the ranks. And then finally, the next thing to review, I think, and I'm going to use a word that I think is used in tech quite a lot, but it's a really powerful word, and that is velocity. Phil, I think I can hear you. Say something. I'll get you back.
Have you got me back now?
Hooray! Welcome back, Phil. The next thing is velocity. Like, are you going at the pace you want to go? If not, why not? It's such a big thing. So many times I speak to agents and they say, oh, you know, I've had a 30% increase in listings this month, or I've had a 30% reduction in instructions this month, or valuations have dropped off by 10% this month. And I say, what's that look like against the whole market in your patch? And they go, not sure actually. And so sometimes we panic when we don't need to, but also we then also think that we've grown, but we haven't grown as much as we have either, because the velocity of the whole market. So it's, what do we want to achieve against the market, not just in our own little bubble? And there's two kind of things to look at there about the velocity and the pace of what we want to achieve in our business. So I would absolutely encourage people to review that. So just as a reminder, vision. Yeah. What is it? Do your people know it? What is your people strategy, and what culture are you engendering within your business? It's very important now. Finding good people is hard, and they want great culture. So what are you doing about it? Data, how are you using it? How are you measuring it? How is it really making the most of it within your business? Processes, look, we talk about it all the time. It's easy to sit here and say review your processes, but do think about handing that as a task to an up and coming person to really start looking at how you can improve process within your business, and measure that velocity. Where do you want to be? How quickly do you want to get there? Why do you want to get there? And ultimately, how does that look against the market so that you can really assess your growth and how you're doing? And that's what I'd say is critical to review on a, I want to say quarterly, but if you could do it, just do it annually, it'd be good.
Yeah, just do it at some point. But I would say if you can go back and do that as soon as you can in May, if you've not done it for a long time, then it's something you need to look at. I think when you said about velocity there, it's amazing how many agents I speak to sometimes that think that they're winning when they're not, and then the ones that think that they're losing when they're winning, because they're comparing themselves with themselves. And they're not comparing themselves the fact that there's 15 new agents that now dip into their area, or that the whole of the market is shrinking, etc. And they're actually doing way better than anybody else. And sometimes they change something that was actually working.
It's a really important point, that, Phil, because the other thing is, if the market is shrinking, i.e., if property is simply not coming to the market in your region, what are you going to do about it? So if you leave that on an annual basis, it's no good. You're good. And I know we all use pie charts and various other things to assess, but actually really truly getting into the granular data to assess that is vital, Phil, because you're going to have to adapt your business plan and your process to make the most of it. You might need to expand into a different region. You might need to start doing more lettings. You might need to look at additional revenue streams. Whatever it is, though, you might have to go on the defensive a little bit. And if you're not reviewing that velocity with enough detail, then you can't. You're right.
And a new area doesn't need a new office and a new expense. It just means a little bit of prospecting further down that road, then a little bit further down that road, and just gradually opening your patch and just making your circle and your market a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to take a new postcode area in this day and age, you don't necessarily need a branch. By the way, I'm all for branches. I don't lean particularly to one or another model. I just think that it's you can venture into an area and then see if you need an office.
100%. So I'd really like to talk about the new generation of buyers and sellers. People talk about people struggling to get on the market, and first-time buyers being a little bit older than they used to be, and the average age of buyers and sellers, and the way that we communicate with them and the way that we speak to them. And I'd like you to expand on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Bit, I'm going to answer that question in 1 minute, but I've just seen Andrew in the chat has popped up. If you don't mind, Phil, and he's just said, could you apply what you were just saying to a new agency with no database yet? And just to close that off, I just would like to answer that for Andrew. And I think absolutely yes. And in fact, Andrew, how exciting, because you're at a situation where you don't have any, hopefully, bad habits yet, and you can really draw out the idea of vision, people, data, process, velocity, and you can think about it on a week by week almost basis, month by month basis. You're in a privileged position that you haven't got any legacy issues. So, and with regards to your sort of going into different areas, absolutely, Andrew, you can assess the market in each postcode area, for example, and really, because I presume, time when you start a new business, time is the biggest thing for you. So it's and money, budget, marketing budget. So where can you best spend that marketing budget and that time? If there's loads of property sales going on in LA8, but not very many going on in LA12, forget about LA12 for now. Go and get some LA8 stuff. Get yourself moving so you're getting into a position where you can generate some cash, and then you can start penetrating surrounding markets. Andrew, I hope that's answered a bit of your question. If you have any other questions, you can contact me through the guys at Street or LinkedIn. I'd be happy to just chat to you anyway. Goes for everybody, by the way. to your question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an exciting time when you're kicking off, and it's such an exciting market.
Sorry, back to your question. New generation, right? So the new generation,
Yeah.
I hear this all the time now. Full confession, I'm a millennial. I'm a geriatric millennial, apparently, whatever that means. Yeah, so I'm a geriatric millennial, which obviously means I'm starting to get a bit older.
I think I'm just geriatric now.
But
I think that's
it's a serious consideration we need to make. What does a new generation look like? And the thing is, we touched on this a little bit earlier, right? It's not just new generation, but it's just like, you know, the pandemic has accelerated adoption of technology, number one. But the new generation that we've also got to consider, particularly we're seeing this in lettings. So the tenants that are coming through, these people are young and demanding. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of nodding. I know I'm a millennial. I'm very demanding. I'd like to apologise on behalf of all millennials. We can't help it. It's just the way we are made. But fundamentally, there's different schools of thought on how we can communicate with them and what we should be doing. Some people will say, oh, they just want to see fancy properties and look at great pictures. Other people will look and say, oh, you need to be delivering great content, all about house prices and local market data. I'm not going to align myself with either one of those. What I'm going to say is everybody's different. And by the way, Alan, I don't know which Alan it is, but if I'm a geriatric millennial, what does that make you? I don't know who is that? Who is that, Alan?
I'm not sure.
Alan, make your surname known so we can know who you're talking about. I'm dying to know. Sorry, back to it. So the average age of a home mover now is 39. Their average, that's come down a little bit, it was 42. The average age of a first-time buyer is 35 in London and a little bit less outside of London. So that's me, right? Ish, my gang, right? And we, we want to see great pictures. We still use Instagram. We still use all that stuff, but we want to be able to do it, in here most of the time. Okay, not all of the time. So yesterday I actually rang an estate agent to inquire about a property. Don't all pass out. I know it's unbelievable. And I had a good conversation, but I wanted knowledge and I did not get it. Couldn't answer the questions, didn't take my details, didn't know why I was buying or interested in the property. It was lovely. The lady was lovely. I can't fault her in terms of her pleasantness. But the call was ineffective, might as well not have had it. Everything that she told me I could have got online. And that's where we've got to be careful. So where am I going to with this? New generation of buyers and sellers, no particular difference to the old generation of buyers and sellers, right? It's an emotive process. You all know this. You all know this so much. Estate agents are not people who transact on properties. They are people who are counsellors and offering advice on people's biggest assets. They are people who have to provide emotional support to their clients, right? It's huge. So for me, the idea that we're not going to support them through people is wrong. So it's got to be give them the tools to book viewings online, to give feedback online, let them do all that in here, because that's easy, right? And get the people talking to me about my why. Why do I want to move? What is important to me? Why am I interested in that property? That's for me going right back to where we started with this, where the future of estate agency, full stop, letting sales, doesn't matter what you are in the new generation, all generations is people on the people, tech on the administrative stuff that can easily happen. Because to book a viewing takes 5 or 6 calls. That's just crazy waste of time. Especially when
give people what they want when they ask for it. I won't do names, but I spent a long time at an agency many years ago, and the registration process has 46 questions in it before you were allowed to book the viewing.
Yeah.
Is the property available? Tell them the property is available. You don't have to tell them all the details about the house. They've already seen it. That's why they rang. Give them what they want, and this is for everybody. Don't ask people 62 questions or even 25 questions before you answer the question.
And it's a controversial subject, right, Phil? I'm sure you hear it all the time, and so I'm going to tackle the controversy around it, because there is a lot of arguments say, well, I want to filter these people. I want to make sure that they're not wasting my time. I want to make sure that my staff are safe. Very important, right? We don't just want any Tom, Dick or Harry wandering in and making our team unsafe. Believe me, that is the last thing I want. So it's about the journey. Sometimes we think far too in too many, in sort of like boxes, and I'm a big believer in this flywheel of what is the journey of this customer, and we need to make sure that part of it is taken care of by tech, but part of it is done by people, because we don't want to waste our time. But at the same time, I started this conversation by saying there's buyers out there. We've got to get better at talking to our buyers. So if people are registering as a buyer or booking a viewing, should I say, these are the people that potentially have got a house to sell. You all know that. So yes, let them book the viewing, but you've got to talk to them as well. It's twofold, in my opinion. Yeah. But you can make that conversation much more focused and less about all the nuts and bolts, because technology can capture that bit. Hopefully that makes sense. I think. And it's Alan back.
100%. I nearly guessed at Alan, but there's a lot of Alans out there.
I believe he is.
Alan is still a young man. Alan. Still a young man. I think that registration process, those initial questions, that building that relationship. What's your why? Why do you want to move? There's an instruction for you hidden in there. Whether it's with the person that you're on the phone with, they may be a first-time buyer, but when they come off the phone, who are first-time buyers talking to? They're talking to the parents. They're talking to everybody, let's be honest. And this is maybe a little controversial. We all know when somebody's moving house, because it gets pretty boring, because they never talk about anything else. You go for a walk with them in the park, you go for a meal with them, and the questions are, who have you spoken to? Have you had a valuation? Have you done any viewings? Who's the best agent? And you can't perceive anybody that walks through your door or rings your phone as not having any value just because you've got 1,000 people registered and only 6 houses on the market. Everybody's got some value, because they're going to be your champions. They're going to be people running around. They won't tell you if they think you're rubbish. They'll tell everybody else. They'll be on social media. They'll be telling people in the pub. But if they think you're brilliant, again, they'll be out there. They'll be telling everybody. And it is as easy
as that. I mean, sometimes I think we sometimes try to overcomplicate it. Fundamentally, I talk a lot about, and my partner says this is why I'm a yellow, right? But ultimately, I talk a lot about how do you make someone feel? That's it. Like if you don't take anything else away from this whole webinar, just consider what all of your business activities and everything that you and your team are doing, how does somebody feel when they interact with your business? And Phil's just nailed it. You want them to either get off the phone, leave the viewing, leave the valuation, leave the website, leave the social media, whatever, leave and think, God, that was good. They're good. Because Phil's right. They will go and tell people. I tell you who's a good estate agent. I'm going to use Alan Batt. It's Alan Batt. I wouldn't use anybody else. That's what you want them to say. Not, and I'm the biggest whinger, right? I detest customer service that is rubbish. And I whinge about it to everybody. I'll tell everybody. I'm really noisy, as you might have worked out. So, and I'm a millennial. I'm your people at the moment. So, Phil, you're right. How do you make somebody feel? And if you can confirm and guarantee that you're making them feel good after the experience, they don't have to have actually transacted with you. They just have to feel good. And they will act as advocates, and your marketing budget may even reduce off the back of it.
Yeah, and this goes back to your people strategy. This is the conversation that you're having with the valuers and the negotiators. I don't think there's any such thing as a waste of time. I actually, before I was an estate agent, when I was very young, I inquired about a couple of houses with an estate agent up in Bury, who I then ended up working for. And while I was getting used to using the system, I was registering myself, basically. I found out that I was already registered, and tagged next to my name was a waste of time. WOT, waste of time. And I bought a house from the agent next door about 8 weeks later, and they just tagged me as a waste of time. I certainly wasn't. There was a mortgage in there. There was a house sale in there. So we need to be speaking about the negotiators and the value. There's no such thing as a waste of time, even if there's no immediate business in it. There's a relationship to be built, and there's some powerful stuff.
For me, the biggest killer of business and sport, right? I don't know, the two are so high level sport, is complacency. And my fear now, as we start to get in a harder market where it's been buyers a tenner penny, is and the market gets tougher, and life has been good, right, for the last 2 years, really, if you're an estate agent, let's face it. There's some nice cars driving around at the minute. I know that. I was like, ooh, upgrade, a couple of upgrades. But complacency, right? You see it in sport. You see it when teams are flying high, and then all of a sudden you think this looks like a complacent team, and then they go, sorry to upset anybody if you've got any Man City fans on here, but last night's Champions League game, they thought it was in the bag, and then 2 goals were scored in the last 5 minutes of injury time, and then they went on to lose in extra time. And you wouldn't think that of a team like Manchester City, but it did happen. And the same applies to a estate agency. Complacency is our biggest threat right now. So as a result, we have absolutely got to consistently and proactively market ourselves and deal and help our people to do the right things. And that really is the buyers, the waste of time thing. I'm with you, Phil. There's no such thing as a waste of time. Imagine being in the business of moving people and moving homes and thinking that someone who's come to you and said, hello, I'd like to move home, and then thinking they're a waste of time. It doesn't make any sense when you put it like that, right? No.
It doesn't. You're watching money walk out the door, aren't you, by not dealing with them? And that's absolutely right, Anna. So there's some really good points there. I hope most people stuck with us for quite a while. I just wanted to wrap up really by just asking, you do a lot of mentorship with a lot of agents and through the agents together, and I personally believe it's really valid and needed in the industry. And I think there's a lot of people out there that can gain a lot from spending time with other people, peers, people that may be a bit more knowledgeable, a bit more experienced. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that
for
works?
Sure. And Sophie's just mentioned that she'd love to know more about the mentoring. So perfect timing, Sophie. At Agents Together, we run a free to access mentorship scheme. It's peer-to-peer, basically. So we have 290 mentors from all walks of life, all backgrounds. Heather Staff is a mentor, I'm pleased to say. So the wonderful Heather from Street. And Phil, I'm sure we'll get you signed up as well soon. And we have a whole array. We got some really big names that people would know, and I've signed up Phil Spencer as well, although he upset some estate agents this week, so the less said about that. But maybe this is live, so I won't say what I'm going to say. But in a nutshell, we have got a whole array of people, and it's free to access, and we are not too prescriptive. We say, look, an hour and a half a month, and we connect you, bespoke match people, and we just say, talk to each other, set some goals, and get that support. It's having somebody to talk to. We call it wise words and inspiration. And you can go to the Agents Together website, which is agentstogether.co.uk just go there and it's there, basically. agentstogether.co.uk, or DM me and we'll help. Andrew, could you drop a link or details about the mentoring? Yeah, Adam has done it because he's a legend. Look, the big thing for me, this is a big thing. I've got a mentor, right? I know Heather has got a mentor. I know I did an interview the other day. Me and Kenny and Michael were all being interviewed. They've got mentors. They're mentors to others, but they've got mentors. I think sometimes and it goes back to my point about complacency, and I know we're coming to the end now, but don't ever, the big message is don't ever believe that you know it all. And if you can stay in that mindset, ultimately then you will grow, because you think there's always something more I can learn. And our mentors get so much out of it as well. So if any of you want to be a mentor, then do sign up. Sorry, Morris, I didn't know you were on. Oh, Morris. Oh, I've upset Morris. I'm sorry. Liverpool, I've gone through, Morris. And thank you to whoever that has just said thank you, have sent a LinkedIn request. Lovely. I look forward to talking to you more. Sorry, Phil, I'll shut up now. Thank you.
No, you're right. Honestly, I think it's a good place to finish. Nobody ever knows everything, and I think on both sides of the coin, actually, the mentors get something out of being a mentor and the meetings as well, and it just develops an industry together, doesn't it? We work together, we speak to each other, we educate each other, we help each other, and yeah, hopefully we've helped a few people today with your wise words and experience, and I look forward to catching up with you soon, and thank you everybody for logging in. If you do have any questions, please do contact Sarah on that, and I think Adam is going to send out the details, and people will receive a recording as well if you want to share it with your teams.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me. Great to see everybody. Sorry for talking about football.
No, it's an absolute pleasure as always. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.